Good morning, everyone. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We are live here in Highland Park, taking a look at some of the big stories that are making news. And we sat down, or I should say, we walked the streets with the new mayor to talk about streets, the street lights, the safety, and development. Take a look. I think it's important that we are at this site because we look over there and we see the potential for Highland Park in terms of economic development. Talk to me about what you're hoping to see and change.
What I'm hoping to see, especially with the memes group or what we actually Capital, is that they get tenants in their building, which will bring numerous jobs, and those jobs will bring revenue to the city, tax revenue.
The small industrial complex isn't the only business that's happening here on Hamilton Street, though. Can you talk about how important the Hamilton corridor is to the city of Highland Park?
Oh, well, it's very important. If you think about it, you have right there at Pontchartrain, you have the park, which is Palmer Park, and then you have the golf course. And everybody loves to come to the golf course. What is it? The new Rock. What is it? Rock Financial.
The Rocket Mortgage
yeah,
Classic.
the Rocket Mortgage Classic. And so they're looking for places to stay when they're here. They're looking for Airbnbs and hotels, and I see all of that here in Highland Park. And then connecting to the Boston Edison area on the other end, that those houses are historic and beautiful, and we want people to be able to drive through and just come and stop and walk. And Hamilton used to be called Antique Row. That was when I first moved here. It was Antique Row. There was a lot of little mom and pop shops on here, and they all had something to offer, from ice cream to hardware. And that's what we're looking again. We want Hamilton to be that place where people come through just like they go through Ferndale and they go through Royal Oak on Main Street. That's what we want here.
So what's your biggest obstacle? Obviously, Highland Park is a great location in terms of getting to all the different Metro Detroit suburbs, clearly, and transportation. So what's your biggest obstacle in terms of building this development?
Revenue, I believe. I want to say, people are having hard times getting finances. And so we've been working very hard to help them with, resources. So the resources that small businesses need to go ahead and grow and develop here, that's what we're working towards, and that's what we need help with. So we're partnering with a lot of people, MEDC, we're partnering with MISTA, we're partnering with the State Land Bank, we're partnering with Wayne County Land Bank to get those resources and whatever we could do to help people to come Highland Park and live.
I'm sure it's got to help when you get wins like you did with the whole Highland Park water issue. Can you just talk about how that continues to increase the momentum for the city and allows opportunities like these partnerships to really flourish and take shape?
Well, we know the water issue has been a beast for over 20 years. It's been something that's continued and continued and continued. And I'm just glad that we had the help of the state, and Glenda decided to, we all sit down at the table and come up with a solution. And that solution now has warranted people to want to call and say, hey, I see you dealt with the water issue. I'm ready to build here. I'm ready to, develop here.
I was speaking with a resident who was frustrated because their water bill doubled. What do you say to the residents, and how can we help them?
Well, that's one thing that the governor did, and thanks to Governor Gretchen Whitmer for that, is making sure that she put money into this deal for residents to be able to get help for their water bills. Now, will everybody qualify? Because I don't want to mislead people. No, they won't. But at least there's people who's on fixed incomes, who can't afford it, who cannot do, just come out of their pockets with these doubles, that they put money in. You can go to Thaw, you can go to Wayne Metro, and they have money to pay the bill. And so it's a help for a lot of people in our city, but it might not be a help for everybody. But we're still working on how we can do that, because there's new laws being presented in the legislative, as for affordability, the Water Affordability Act. So we're praying that get passed, so that other citizens can afford, their water. We hoping that the water increase will not last long, because we have to get meters under the ground, and that was the other money that they gave us, is to install these master meters. And Highland Park has not been metered since it's been on Gliwa, and that's been since Detroit Water and Sewage Department since 2012. So there has not been any accurate readings under the ground of how much sewage is being used, how much water is being used. And once we get those readings and consistent readings, then we should see some decreases, because we did discover that we were overpaying and that we were, being, what is it called? Guesstimations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of you can be a real victim of that. Right.
Of what we owe. And so I'm glad that they had that time to be able to discover, we don't owe that. That's not enough, our bill. That's not all of our bill. So now, with that, we can find out exactly what we're using.
Talk about fire and police. We've seen reductions in violent crimes in Highland Park in your time as mayor.
I'm excited.
How have you been able to achieve that?
I have a great chief of police, and I have a great chief of fire. So we're not totally there yet, because there is some things that we need to get done. But for the first time, as a standalone fire department since 1985, the fire department is fully staffed with full-time firefighters. The police department, we are now competitive. We're competitive. We have a salary that we feel is competitive with all the other cities, enough to get us. Somebody said, in what city can you go to now and actually come in and sit down with the chief once a month and hold a conversation?
I know that we have lights, on near the edges of main streets by Woodward, etc., but on the inner part of a residential street, there are no lights, and residents are concerned about that. And what are we going to do about it?
The problem that we have of getting those lights reinstated is that we have went from 50,000 people at its peak in Highland Park to under 10. And so that means the revenue that was paying for those lights are no longer there. I'm not going to tell you a lie. And the truth is, until we get the finances to finance those lights, we can't put them back in here, because they'll be right back out. They'll be right back out. Now, if DTE want to donate some lights to us that they don't charge us a bill for, that would be excellent. But we are working with a couple of solar organizations that's working to try to get grant fundings and things to help, put some lights in.
I was going to ask one last question. If you had one wish, if we could just, maybe it's lights, maybe it's solidarity, maybe, you're making headway with crime. If you could have one thing going, let's tackle that next. What's your big next?
Community and economic development. Okay. That's the main next.
Okay.
Because without it, we can't do revenue. We don't have any revenue.
Okay.
So if we don't grow, we don't build up the city, we don't put new buildings and new houses and schools and everything. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to move to a city that they can't send their kid to all the schools.
Right.
People don't want to move to a city where they can't live in peace and want to be in a walkable environment. Mm-hmm. Like this area right here, this is a prospective development. And this this development will bring not only housing, apartments, but retail, things people can walk to. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for walkable spaces, green spaces that we can walk. Our senior population go outside and sit in and just have a good day. Mm-hmm. And our children can go and play. And then our millennials and Gen Zers can hang out on a weekend and don't have to go to another city downtown. They just want to have, their time. That's my goal for the city.
And in terms of that water agreement, by the way, nothing is official yet. It is sitting in the courts to make that decision. Of course, we'll stay on top of that issue, and we're going to pursue the issue of lights. We talked to some folks from Solidarity, a group of folks here in Highland Park who are really concerned about bringing street lights back to this community. That's another hot topic issue. Lots on table there for the mayor to address as she begins to lead the city. Of course, we will be following these stories and more. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to go one-on-one with the Highland Park police chief, talk a little bit about crime and where we go in terms of making the streets safer for the residents here in Highland Park. We are live right now on Avalon Street in Avalon Village. We will be back in an hour.